when you're intentionally saying, I love pushing my limits, most athletes are aware of what happens when that limit is reached. And that's something that they're willingly taking on.
So there is some things that can be changed, but also the reason why the event is so big is because it's life.
Fatalities, paralysis, life-changing events. And I see it a lot. And I'm not saying I'm desensitized to it. In fact, I'm actually more sensitive to it. It kind of F's me up more than it used to.
Welcome everybody to the show. For this week, we've got a returning guest, Steve Vanderhoek. So we're going to chat about a couple of sensitive topics. The first one is Red Bull Rampage. I wanted to chat about the risk, the reward. I've seen a lot of very negative comments about the event, and I wanted to discuss that with Steve. But what did you tell me before coming?
I agree with you. What you said perfectly. It's a very sensitive topic and really easy to armchair quarterback that one. So for me personally, as I've been reading the comments, as I've been thinking about it, my wife was actually down there filming it. So she filmed everything and she came back with quite a lot to say about it. So for me personally, with all the risk I've taken this year with my personal things that I've done, I'd be pretty upset if I heard people that had no skin in the game commenting on what I did and giving me their opinions. It would upset me quite a bit. So for me, I'm not one of the athletes. I've never dug and I've never had any part of the event. Sure, I may have a few things I think of, but I have so much respect for the riders, so much respect for the event that I don't really think that I have a lot to contribute to that conversation. More than happy to talk about it, but yeah, I think there's just so many things that go on that people that haven't partook in the event will just never understand. And it's tough. My wife was, when she came back, when Kelsey came back, it was a heavy year this year. So yeah, that's kind of you've competed. You were there this year. You've had a lot to do with the event. I kind of think that you have a little bit more that you can lean in on the topic. So
yeah, fair enough. You're not the only one. I actually offered to do that podcast with a few other riders, and no one wanted to take part on anything that was Rampage related. So here I am. I'm going to tell you what I think at any time. If you want to add something, if you want to agree, disagree, please feel free to do it. But I'm going to share my point of view based on the comments that I've been reading online. So
there's a lot of comments.
There's a lot
of comments. There's a lot of people leaning in.
But so obviously Rampage is a pinnacle of freeriding. Every year the rider push harder and harder. The jumps gets bigger, the tricks get bigger, the overall level gets raised every single year. Now you are at a point where basically anyone could win. When I competed in 2015, 16, 17, 18, you definitely had favorites, and it was going to be really unlikely that some of the riders would be able to do a run that would win. Myself, for example, everybody knew that I would never win Rampage, whereas now things change a lot.
Super stacked roster. Anybody could win it.
Anybody could win it. Obviously, the ability on the bike of everybody has gone so insane. Everybody is so talented in terms of bike control, but also in terms of tricks. The commitment of everybody. Now you see rookies wanting to do some of the bigger jumps. So level has been pushed up a lot, and that comes at a price, unfortunately. So some of the comments that I've seen were super negative towards Red Bull. And I'm not a Red Bull athlete. I never was, never will be. But I have to say that Red Bull is putting an event, is sponsoring an event, because actually Todd Barber from H5 Events put the event together. Red Bull is a sponsor of the event. But the logistics that they bring, the media opportunities are insane. And I think every rider is really grateful for that. Having a platform like the one that Red Bull can bring for the sport is huge. And I think everybody understands that and values it. And with that, Red Bull also brings pretty impeccable logistic, food gathering, physio, pretty much everything you will need on the course to be able to go and build the best, gnarliest, craziest line you can and be able to ride it the best way possible. Red Bull and the organization is there to do it. And in terms of medical crew, if there's one event where you had to get hurt, the time it takes for the medical team to react at Rampage is actually really quick. Obviously, with the crash of Emil happening at the top of the mountain, that was longer just because the access was so difficult. But it really took no time for the staff to access to Adolf when he had this horrible crash. Was, for example, on the World Cup circuit, what happened to Brooke McDonald a few years ago. Can't remember how many hours it took to get extracted from the mountain, but that took much longer.
I mean, it is a big mountain. It is a big mountain event. I think big mountain skiing, the same thing. It comes with risks that aren't going to be on a ski racetrack, such as potential for avalanches and burials and offline and going over cliffs. And if you look at big mountain skiing, like guys do end up going off large cliffs unintentionally. This may not be leaning in on exactly what you're saying, but like I'm friends with quite a lot of the athletes, Zink and Hannah Bergman, and also a lot of past athletes. And I do feel that the ones that it's always in their mind all year, and the ones that go they analyze the risk, they've really prepared for it. And I do feel that all of them bow out when they don't feel ready. Or like look at a lot of the athletes this year, Straight, T-Mac, they were like second year venue or like third year venue, whatever it was. I'm not feeling it this year. I'm going to dip out. And that's why I have so much respect for them. And they know what they're doing. And, I see a lot of comments about the risk being taken. They're so aware of what they're doing, and it's their passion. I mean, I think I even said this in one of your podcasts already, is like when you push your limits, like, do you know what happens when you find your limits? Finding your limits is not good, generally. So when you're intentionally saying, I love pushing my limits, most athletes are aware of what happens when that limit is reached. And that's something that they're willingly taking on.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, the rider want to be at Red Bull Rampage. The rider are excited. It's like a huge part of their career. For some of them, it's the reason why they have a career in the first place, or why their career has taken off is because of Red Bull Rampage. For some of them, it's why their career continues is because they still go to Red Bull Rampage. But for all of them, it's something that they want to do. And it's something that they'll do anything to get an entry for. And I would say that none of the riders get the pressure from the events to perform. They might get indirect pressure from sponsors. Mm-hmm. But once again, like, I don't think any sponsor or any of their bike brand supporters are telling them, if you don't perform at Rampage, we will not re-sign your contract. That might be something that's not directly said or understood in conversation, but it's the same in World Cup racing. Yeah. A team manager will hopefully not directly say to a rider, if at the next race you don't get a top 10, we don't re-sign your contract. You don't want to say that, because then you put like an incredible amount of pressure, and then that's when accidents happen. But the rider knows it. Yeah. The team or the brand knows it. And I think it's the same with Rampage. If you end off contract, you haven't had a really good year, you know that if you perform at Rampage, that most likely going to secure you another contract with your partners. So now, looking at what Red Bull is doing with the event, I think they do a really good job. Are there something that could be better? I'm sure. We've heard like riders complaining about the live TV. Because of the event is in the desert, there is a lot of wind, there is a lot of like outside factors that when you try to set it to live television, you want to have it like in a fairly small window, you want everything to go smooth, but the reality of the event is anytime there is a crash that delays everything, then the wind picks up a little bit more in the afternoon. There is a lot of parameter. So there is some things that can be changed, but also the reason why the event is so big is because it's live.
Well, I mean, yeah, outside of just like core pure riding that you do with your friends and do without cameras, like unfortunately a lot of these events are there, not unfortunately, but they are there because of marketability. Like the event has to, it happens because somebody has to profit and make money and pay for each element of it. So without a lot of those elements, then money's not made. And then a sponsor will be like, well, this is not benefiting me. So they pull out and the event doesn't happen anymore. So
if the event wasn't profitable, Rampage would not be happen.
It's not just giving like the riders an award for being sick. Like they are sick, but unfortunately, and this even goes for professional riding as well. Like some people show up to work Monday to Friday and they work their job. You can't just show up to the job and say, I don't want to work today. If you're a professional rider, you are signing a contract that you're going to deliver your deliverables and they're going to deliver you what they say they're going to deliver. So it's a business partnership for professional riding. It is a job. And, yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that, but I know I spent quite a lot of time in the pits when I was watching Rampage last year. And when they build their lines, they look back and they're like, hell yeah, phase 1 done. I built the thing. And some of them, if they don't feel confident, they either do not do a run or they do one run and they pull out. Like how many times do you see a guy not do a second run? They're making that smart choice.
Yeah.
I really do think the riders, they take care of themselves. They're not being pushed. And there is medical staff there to pull riders out due to concussions. Like Cami last year, Bienve. So
everything is taken like very seriously. The event organizer take in consideration, like for example, this year, everything got delayed a day because of the rain the previous day. So they wanted to make sure that riders had enough time to, especially the women, because the event was technically a couple of days early. They wanted to make sure the rider had enough time. So as far as I'm concerned, and from having done the event and from being there this year, I didn't see any red flags. Like I didn't see anything that really the organization could have made any difference. Could you put safety nets everywhere? Could you put like pads on some rocks? Yes,
no.
maybe. No. Maybe you could do that, but then that will defeat the purpose of the event. It's like in a freeride World Tour competition, if you were putting like safety nets above like some of the dangerous cliff. Like it's not racing, it's not downhill racing for skiing or for mountain biking where you can put like padding everywhere. I saw some comments where people were like, oh, maybe you can tell the rider to not do any trick on the first third of the course. But then you're really limiting the sport. And the idea of having Rampage, the pinnacle of freeride mountain biking, is to leave full creativity to the riders. So if you limit the riders, I do think the riders will be upset in the first place, because for a lot of them, doing a bar spin or a 360 drop is not that much harder than doing just a regular drop.
Yeah.
So if you tell them, we know you could be doing a 360 drop here and it's not that big of a deal for you, but we insist on the fact that you just have to jump straight to keep it safe. I think that goes obviously against the sport. But the biggest thing is, hearing the riders and from chatting with them, all of them are extremely excited to be there, but they're also extremely nervous to have to guinea pig and
nutty.
Then do the tricks.
It's scary.
But all of them want to go back. All of them want to be there. Now there's one thing. I wonder if, as we are chatting off a video, like the state of the bike industry, the state of sponsorship, being in a tricky position, I wonder if a lot of these riders are feeling the pressure from that and therefore feel like they have to push harder than they want to in order to get a better result at Rampage and hopefully sign a better deal.
I mean, I can't argue that for the riders, but for my guys that are my buddies that compete there, I think like they know what's at stake, and I feel like it's so on their limit and it's so gnarly that I do think that's pushed out. Like you and I will talk later in the podcast about something that I did this year that brought me down and whittled me down to where self-preservation is all that's important. They know what's at stake. And I do believe that that's pushed out and their focus is just on riding their line and being alive at the bottom and their families and their friends and everything. And I think that you can argue that, but I think at the end of the day, all the riders that are there are the most professional riders I know. I don't think that they're doing that. Like, yes, you do want to perform. It's human nature to perform. Social media, your brands, it looks great. But when it comes down to it, you know what's at stake. It's life or death. And I think they're making the decisions smartly. The changes that can occur and may occur. I think that all this comments and the people commenting online and us chatting here, I think that next year, I'm sure there will be very good talks between the athletes and Red Bull and the event. And I'm sure those involved and those that it matters, I do believe that conversation will be sparked and they're going to listen more. And I think they'll come to a good agreement. Like, I believe that if the event happens next year, that I think that all parties involved will probably be happy with where it's going. That's my opinion. I mean, you can't not discuss it after what happened, but maybe the riders will get more of a voice.
From my first time at Rampage in 2015, I remember there was some big changes that year, and there was a meeting that was called out. There was a lot of disagreement between the riders and the organization. Everything pretty much got sorted out on the spot. There was issue with basically video rights, compensation, and that was changed for some of it was changed for that year, and some of it was changed for the following year. And from there, like, I also remember in 2016 or 2017, in the middle of the year, so like long before the event, there was a riders meeting on Zoom where everybody was discussing like a few topics in order to make everything better for the riders. So obviously the event organizer was listening. But so, yeah, when you see the comments online, and I understand how people are feeling, obviously, seeing the crash on live TV of Adolf was horrible. In person, that was,
That's all. It was terrible.
It was awful. Obviously, the true victim in the story is him. Things that could have been improved was maybe to have a delay. So, for example, have the live actually 5 or 10 minutes delayed. So if something like this happened, the broadcast team will have some time to kind of post the footage, or perhaps like put a message. The rider had an accident during his run. Medical crew is performing evacuation. We wish him the best. We'll keep you posted. Maybe that's a way to kind of like protect the viewers from.
That's a good.
From the experience that was lived this year.
Yeah,
that's really one of the only thing I can really think.
Actually, I'm really impressed. Actually, that's good. I think I have a skewed perspective on things, and not that I'm special at all, but like as a 14-year career firefighter and emergency responder, I've responded to countless trail rescues in my local area, fatalities, paralysis, life-changing events, and I see it a lot, and I'm not saying I'm desensitized to it. In fact, I'm actually more sensitive to it. It kind of F's me up more than it used to. But it's really, I can understand the reaction from the world and the community seeing something like that, because coming from someone who has seen it quite often in person, it's a horrible thing to live someone else's tragedy and to like tragedy and feel that. is wild. And I actually had a meeting with a guy who's a trauma therapist, and he said, like, if you witness someone else's tragedy and you feel that empathy and that pain for them, at some point you have to process that emotion. And I think the world is processing that emotion through the keyboard. And they're just like, it's so hard to process what happened, that's the outlet that people are choosing.
Yeah.
But yeah, somebody's life is changed, and it would be nice to see some changes. But yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, saying it's the nature of the sport is not a solution, but the sport is progressing. The jumps are getting bigger, riders are going faster. The streaks are, getting gnarlier every time. And now where the rider can make those tricks, for Emil doing an upper tail whip on a drop is really not a big deal. But he did it in a spot that's extremely exposed, made a slight mistake, which almost costed his life.
Yeah, that was insane.
This was, I turned my head. I thought there was no way he had survived.
I thought it was over.
Fortunately, somehow he stopped and he's heading up. But yeah, overall, I think the level has got to, an absolutely insane new reality.
It's insane.
And everybody can win. So now the rider pushing are no longer like the top 3 or the top 5. It's literally the entire field. I just don't really know. As long as the event goes on, I don't really know how you could
it's going to
change that. You could stop the event and make it maybe a video challenge, and therefore the rider will be able to take the risks exactly when they want to, maybe have more time or preparation, but then it's no longer an event. Then it becomes a video part.
Mm-hmm.
And the action and the riding could be equally as good or even better, because if you control the environment, if you control everything, rider might be able to actually push even more than they would during the events. So then you could argue that the risk.
Yeah, I think the only opinion that matters to me or that I necessarily care about would be sitting down in a room of the riders and hearing what they want, right? Like, what do they want to have? They're the riders. They're the beating heart of this event. So, yeah, I mean.
One of the interesting thing I heard is, I heard someone talking about the prize money being too high and therefore too much of an incentive to take risks. But then for years, it was the prize money is too low, and it's not worth taking the risk.
So I think that what you just nailed there is a perfect example of you cannot win. Like, that is, I have not heard that. That's actually kind of hilarious. But like, you will never find a balance. You'll never make everybody happy. That is too much money, too little money, too much risk, too little risk, televised, not televised. It's that's insane.
Another thing that was interesting was to limit the water access. So back in the day, you didn't have water anywhere in the mountain. Then I believe in 2015 and 2014, they introduced water on the lower part of the mountain. And in 2018, I think is when they started to get water to the top of the mountain. And that really increased the opportunity of building. So there was talk of no longer having water on top of the mountain. So therefore, you will limit your ability to build those crazy lines where you could do tricks off. But the reality is that could you even ride down from the top of the mountain if there was no water?
Well, I've shot at Rampage site and filmed there, and all I can tell you is, coming from a guy who's watched Rampage from the very first Rampage and then going there thinking I was a good tech rider and I was a gnarly dude, I was like sick and shaking on top of those things. Like, it's so much more next level than you can possibly imagine. The one thing about having water is the ability to redirect lines, because it's fall line and it's ridges, so it's pinching out to a certain area. There's no ability to use water to sculpt a berm or to redirect you, then you're looking at maybe 2 line options, and then you're just going to have to go with the fall line because you can't put enough support for a rider. So the water and the ability to sculpt and stack allows you to now take a ridge and ride it 8 different ways as opposed to one way.
And also control your speed down the mountain. With the water, you can make the dirt tacky, and therefore you can really control your speed. You're able to really creep down the super steep section, especially on top of the mountain. So if you remove the water, not only you can't really build, but also you can't ride nearly as well. So lines like maybe Aiden that won is little. Well, sorry, not little. But his double drop at the start, that was actually huge, but little in terms of size compared to some of the other features. He was able to do that because there was some moisture. If you remove the moisture and it's bone dry, those lines are not really possible. Same for the one of Reed Bugs.
Yeah.
On the start heading to the Goblin, you will not be able to ride that if it was bone dry. You need some moisture in order to control the speed. So you will shut down a lot of opportunities, like if you remove the water on the upper part of the course.
For example, when I went last year to go filming, I went to last year's Rampage site and I looked at a lot of lines, and of course it's easy to say I didn't do it, but I looked at a lot of lines and I'm like, I do believe that I would ride this if I had a little bit of moisture, because I can't do that. I'm like, I would hit that. Like even Seminux dropping from above right down that chute there. I'm not doing that, but like I think Sorgi and whoever else like came in. I'm like, that looks really fun. I'd love to do that, but it's bone dry. I'll die. Shoot off the end.
Yeah.
So like you said, you're limiting your possibilities immensely if you have no water.
Yeah.
I don't think I like that one.
So yeah, to go back to the event, what happened was really sad. There was some incredible performance. Obviously that was overshadowed by the accident. I feel like what people really remember are the two like really gnarly crashes. But we've seen also some of the, best freeriding we've ever seen.
Yeah.
On the women's side, the event itself was awesome.
So good.
Everybody did a top to bottom twice. There was no crashes.
Yeah.
Crashes did happen, but in training, not during the live event. And I think the riding was phenomenal. But seeing Casey's Brown crash in person was heavy.
I've seen that line.
It turned out like she was, somehow okay considering. But yeah, I don't really think I have a solution, unfortunately, and I don't think anyone does have like a proper solution. So it will be interesting to see what's going to happen next year. If you got any idea, please leave us a comment. I'll be curious to see what you think, whereas you've been to Rampage and you've eyed those lines and you've ridden some of it, or you've just never been down to Utah and you just go off what you see on the media, what you see on TV. I think your point of view still obviously matters, but without being physically there and taking part of the event, I think it would be really hard to be able to make things move forward.
Sure. Yeah, man, I think that was really great. Well said.
Okay, now let's move away from Rampage. Yeah, Steve, you've been doing some biking this year, but a lot of building.
So much building. So crazy here.
There was that video of, I'm going to butcher his name, but Brage Verstavik.
It's very good, actually.
Let's call him Brage.
Yeah.
Brage's video. So the story behind, you tell me if I'm wrong, but you found you found a zone in the backcountry.
Yeah.
You went and started to build there a couple lines for yourself that you filmed, posted last year.
Yeah.
And then you approach Brage and you say, hey, I want to show you something.
Yeah, we've been riding a little bit before, and it was kind of like, he was like, I want to do a real badass video part. Like, do you have a place that you'd be willing to share? So yeah, he showed interest and I took him out to my zone, and I think I kind of explained pretty clearly in his BTS video, just like what it felt like to share like something that meant so much to me. But yeah, when he saw the zone, I think he was very, very excited. Like he said, he'd been dreaming his whole life of terrain like that, and he'd never seen anything like it. So like that was a really cool opportunity to share like what I think I've spent all my years building towards, and really finding my niche and what I'm passionate about, and getting to share that with like him and some of my close buddies. And
because you got your technical abilities of riding, but also building over there is not the same as building a berm or a jump in the forest, right? It's completely different style of building that require a ton of skills that you have from your career as a firefighter, as doing tree
It's actually funny. Yeah, like all the jobs that I'd done out of high school, all complement to my trail building style. So my first job out of high school was ski patrolling. So that gave me all the rope access knowledge, the mechanical advantage, hardware, software, all that stuff. And then I built the Grouse Grind, which is a quite horrible, it's basically a treadmill in the forest. You just up a set of stairs. And that taught me like laying foundations, rock work, concrete. I learned how to climb trees. I became I'm not actually a ticketed arborist, so I don't want to butcher this, but ability to climb trees and set anchors. And then I did wildfire. I got a falling ticket, got super into chainsaws. So like all this work that was work for me then became what I was able to put towards trail building.
So to sum it up, this zone is mostly big rock slabs with tree down everywhere. So you have to like chop those trees, reuse the wood in order to make like bridges, landings, and a bunch of like North Shore style feature while you are hanging on by a rope on the side of a cliff, basically.
It's the evilest, scariest terrain. Everyone has the same feeling when they drive in because it's a deactivated road into a burn zone. So everything's black and dead and so much bigger than I can even explain in person, very much like Rampage. Everyone that drives in, you just like, you shrink when you drive in. You're like, get me out of here. Like everything wants to kill you.
Yeah, I bet.
Stuffed up.
It looks like that in the video.
Yeah.
And so then you build, a line for Brage and yourself. You was the line, like how much, like did Brage decide where he wanted to go? Did you guys decide together? Like how did that go?
So for that one, like I had wanted to spend this summer working on an extension of my line, going above and below. This opportunity seemed like, a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. So in the beginning, I was hired and I was just a builder. No intention of riding anything that I built. So I let him, he chose his line. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to help you make it a reality. So.
But also you probably helped him make decision based on what you could build, right?
For sure. Like he would be like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, yep, that I have the ability to cut that. I have the winches and the ability to pull that to here. And the techniques, we did learn a lot as we went. A few things were like, oh, we'll see what happens when we get there. But, I mean, high in the air skinnies, despite being a North Shore kid, not really my favorite thing in the world. So those were very much like, that's what he wanted was skinnies.
Okay.
So that's how it started. I was like, I don't want to touch this freaking thing. I'll build it. I'm stoked to be a part of it, but I ain't riding this crap. Yeah.
And so to me, like the gnarliest feature of the line from like seeing it on camera was the last one, the double drop.
It's insane. We had, for context, we had a guy out there who is the athlete manager for one of the brands I ride for, and he looked up at it and he said, this is on par with stuff I've seen at Rampage. This is messed up. And it is like unanimously every person that sees it, it's so disgusting. It's so gnarly. So yes, the double drop at the bottom is gross.
And that was your idea to like build it, and because it's similar to what you had built on your previous line, right?
I think like it was 100% like everything was his idea for his line, but it was really awesome because he would rely on like my ideas of how to bring it to reality. So like he's like, this is my line and this is where I want to go. Like, can we do this? So originally that double drop was supposed to be no woodwork whatsoever. It was a natural pull off the rock to a rock.
Okay.
And I respect his riding. So I was like, okay, sounds good. But I was like, that's messed up. So initially the plan was just to build a landing. So I was like, well, I built that landing over there. I can build you this. It's way gnarlier of a landing. So that was like a multi-day project of dragging 50 foot long stringers into place, milling huge, I'm pretty sure it was 10 foot long, 1.5 inch thick boards. But the cool evolution was like, I trusted his vision and then he trusted my knowledge of the area. So something you and I did a couple of years ago was in Cat Lake when we hit this downward facing ladder bridge drop that Andrew Shandro hit back in Seasons Collective or Rome. Do you remember which one?
I
can't remember which one it was, but I just remember that being
Rome, maybe.
Yeah, I remember being the coolest thing ever. I'm like, a downward facing bridge that's hanging in space, rock anchored. So I've always wanted to do that. So he's like, I want to pull off natural. And I think as the line came together and we realized the reality of the risk and like what was possible for terrain, he was like, you're right. This needs a bridge. Like that pull will never happen to there. Okay. And then even if you were to land on that rock, you can see I put another bridge to kind of redirect you because the rock is fully going to throw you into the rocks. So that was really cool was like as we went on over the months, his vision and then how he allowed that to, how that would evolve to like kind of understanding what the locals knew they were building. So that was, we all built that one together, but that was hanging off there, drilling in with like threaded rod and hanging these bridges and kind of guessing what would be the right angle. And yeah, I was so happy to finally bring that after you and I rode that together.
And that's a similar approach as Rampage where, the rider is like, okay, I want to go there, come down this way. But the builder, and for example, that's something I've seen with Thomas Lemoine, where he had Vinity building for him.
What a guy. Yeah.
Thomas Lemoine was heavily relying
for sure
on Vinny for feedback on, hey, do you think we can build that? And Vinny would be like, yeah, we can build this. It's going to look like that. We're going to have to put a lot of work here, but yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, I think when you accept the role as a builder, you're taking on a lot of responsibility. Like that person is really putting their life and you're not just swinging a hammer, you're taking their vision and then applying what you know and your skills to like really make it a reality.
The difference with you is that here you are not just a builder. You're like a huge part of the project where you are building it, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it, but with the intent to ride together in the video with Brage.
Yeah, that shift happened probably as we were building the upper A-frame. Like first I built the A-frame with him and I was like, that in itself was, I wish the footage of it is quite hilarious. Like even how we mated the two trees to come together and then being upside down, rappelling in, banging nails from below to like make this thing happen. And then to actually get the log up onto that like A-frame that we did was like so next level, like 15 guys, all hands on deck. And right around then, I remember, I think one guy made a comment like, you can ride this too, Steve? And I was like, I think I maybe could because I stood on top. And then as soon as I stood on top, like, the click, I was like, yeah, damn, actually kind of makes sense.
Of course
but
you could, you're Steve.
No, I'm getting old, but I didn't want to push it. And Brage was like, of course, man, I love that. And then he's like, do you remember my like Sandscape Eternal when me and Nico Vink were like kind of line for line, like shot of him, shot of him, shot of him, shot of him. He's like, that's how I want to do this video. And I was like, yo, this is an opportunity to build and ride with Brage and be a part of something really cool and progressive, like in my opinion, progressive for freeriding. So I kind of shifted. I'm like, okay, like I think I'm down for this. So that kind of shifted the building and my investment and just like how much that project meant to me. I was like, I'd like to ride this too. So yeah, moving forward, once we got to the double drop, I was building it with the intent of riding it. So that's why it was cool to be like, I do think that pull to there won't work in my opinion. I'm sure he could, if he saw it, he could make it work. I trust him. But I also think it looks cooler because rather than rock wood.
People make mistakes though. Sometimes you see something, you think it's going to work.
I don't.
And it doesn't.
I don't like to exaggerate, but I will say with complete confidence that if you F that line up, you're dead. You're so dead. And you can't. So when we got to there and looked at it, you're like, you can't screw this up. You can't just be like, oh, that didn't work very well. Like you can't, you will die. You will be a puddle in the bottom. And even though we used good rescue, like we were prepared for rescue, no, not good. So I'm really happy that we got to do that because not only did we get to create something cool visually, elevate our skills, I think when you look at it, it looks like a piece of art, which is something he said. It was art building art, and the wood gave context to rock, I think made it look bigger.
Yeah, interesting. And so then what happened? Because you rode, you guys warmed up a little bit, but then light came in, the night came in, so you had to come back the next day.
Yeah, we were camping on site for, I think, 3 days for like the final push of building. So we weren't planning on shooting that evening. So I was rigging cable camps. So I was like climbing the trees. It was unseasonably warm. It was like 32 degrees in June, like really hot. So I was rigging the cable, and they were like, because all the trees were down a slope, it was like good 100-foot climbs, like terrible. So we rigged the cable, and I was pretty blasted by the end. Like I came down to the campsite and my like arms are cramping. I'm like, man, I'm messed up.
But for how long have you done that?
But that was like, it was like 5 hours of climbing trees, 5 or 6 hours of climbing trees. So 2 months of building, 0 riding. Like I didn't ride at all. And then I was working my night shifts and my shifts at the fire hall in between. So I'd finish a night shift, I'd come up and build. So I really don't like making excuses, but when the day came and we climbed the trees and we were planning to film the next day, the light came in and it was perfect. And we really, as you know, lighting is everything. It could be sunspotty and the footage will look way worse. And all of a sudden, boom, the light came in. It's like, it's the light, man. We got to film. But I was like messed up and exhausted. We're all exhausted. So when we pushed our bikes up to go, and anybody that does push their limits a bit, there's a lot of negativity in my head. I was like, I can't do this. I'm tired. I don't want to do this. And that's actually going against something I always say. You got to want it. Oh man, I'm so burnt out. I do not want to do this. I'm terrified. I'm so terrified because I knew what could happen. And then Brage drops in and he just slams, dude. Like, I don't even, like, his hands almost got caught in the ladder bridge.
I saw this.
So he got lucky and so I'm there and I'm like, cool. Like, one of the best riders in the world, Brage just crashes. Like, I'm feeling terrible. I'm exhausted and heat stroked out. Like, who am I to be successful? So these are the thoughts in my head as I'm pushing up the A-frame and I'm sitting at the top and I'm like, you're going to kill yourself, man. And I remember yelling drop and it was almost like this like out of body experience. I'm like, you idiot. I drop in, boom, don't hit it that well. Actually,
you did really well.
It went okay. Like yeah, it was terrible. I really hated it, but I just kind of hit it with like a lack of confidence and didn't take the impact that well. Kind of like got shot off, and then I missed the bridge. And I really actually
you rode most of the bridge, eh?
Well, I knew that I wasn't going to make the bridge, so I have to throw it off to the side because what you don't see is if I went straight and off the end, you're dead. It's like you'd be like a 30, 40 foot fall down into just like all rocks. So you'd be killed. So I was like, well, don't die. So I put the bike down and then did a little slide. And in the process, I like stuffed my hand. And we're now like from June, I still actually can't do push-ups. I don't know what I did. I like bruised something. So I was pretty hurt. My leg hurt. My confidence was shot. And I was like, I'm out for tonight. I don't want anything to do with this. And I think that was the end of that night. So that we called it that we went down. Brage had like his big hematoma. Next morning we woke up. The feelings of doubt were even higher. I brought my bike and then I called it. I said like,
too tired, need to go up, I
was tired. I was absolutely terrified. Going through the steps of my process that you and I have like evolved together. And I just X. Like it wasn't there. It wasn't my project. It wasn't my sponsors. So not only did I feel bad, there was not to say there's no incentive, but like it wasn't my achievement. And I just said to him, like, I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you in any way I can, but it's not for me. Like, I don't want anything to do with this today. And I made the really hard decision to walk away from something that I've wanted so badly because I knew it was going to be a Crankworks premiere. It was going to be like...
Yeah, but you thought that you guys were going to take like a few days off and come back when...
I think we were on a tight timeline. Like they had a lot to do and they had flights to get. It actually was the last day. The next day was the last day of several of their filmers. They'd already pushed their filmers back and they all had to fly back to Norway. So I think for me, I was just able to I pulled myself out of the situation and realized that it was, there just too many things weren't aligning. And I was too tired and I was very scared. I was very scared. It's scary. It's the scariest line I've ever seen. And when Brage was successful, he said, that's potentially the gnarliest thing I've ever ridden in my whole life. Ale DeLulo, like top photographers, said, that is top 2 gnarliest things I've ever seen in my life. So that was like validating for me to hear that, my career is a fireman, and I love riding. I really want to continue to ride with you and my friends. And I felt in my heart that if I made the decision to keep pushing out of like ego and vanity and like, of course, like I wanted people to be celebrating me and Whistler in the undergrounds, like, hell yeah, you're so sick. And I'm like, that's the image I saw. And I remember standing up there being like, nah, this is not pure.
Yeah, but like any things that you've done in the past, it's not because you haven't done it at this point that you're never gonna do it, right? It's like how many times you show up somewhere with the intent to ride a feature, and that's true for anyone, you know, watching this. Like, you know, sometimes you go to your local bike park and you're like, okay, today I want to hit that jump, and you do like a few run-ins and it doesn't click, and you're like, you know what? I'll do it next week. I'll come next week when I feel right, got a bit more riding, I'll do it. So obviously, like with a short timeline, so Brage did it. Since, have you gone back? Have you done it?
I mean, I'm not going to comment on that one right now. Just it's in there.
Okay, because you're working on a video project.
Yeah.
A big video project. So okay, let's move on.
Yeah, we got a big project. It's coming out March 27th of next year.
So what is it? Tell us about it.
Long story short, I feel it's a 2-year project. It's just a raw look into life of a lot of people in my life. And it's just like peeling back the layers of what makes people tick and struggles and what we do to get by and support systems and communities. So like something that I am really passionate about is looking for opportunities to like level up everyone around me. So I think that that's kind of what this film is. It's like bringing up the community, and my intent is to premiere this film, play this film, and go to different communities and just like bring people together and support. And yeah, we got some mental health stuff, some injury recovery, my work as a first responder, relating a lot of that to like I don't even know what to call it. A lot of work with my wife, Johan's crashes in his recovery, my building. It's a memory to my good friend Chu that passed away last year. It was like, you're basically going to take a snippet of my life for 2 years, and then you can watch it if you want. I don't think there's anything crazy groundbreaking, and I don't even like overly like promoting it because it's not even done yet. It's 70% of the way through editing. Jeff Livingston, good friend of mine, he's actually moved to Sweden with his family, so he's remotely bringing the film together. And as he's working on it, he's like, man, we're really missing this footage. I need you to go find this footage. I'm like, okay. So opposite time zones, I go out. He's like, the outro of the video is not powerful enough. I need you to go do it. I'm like, okay. So me and Kelsey went for 2 days on the Sunshine Coast and like shot the footage that he thinks will make a better film.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when can people expect to see that online?
So I'd say I currently am $60,000 to $70,000 in debt for the film out of my own pocket, because the bike industry is hurting, and because, as we spoke about earlier, unfortunately, sponsorship is not an award for being a good mountain biker. It has to be a business transaction. So technically, this film isn't going to be like a big sponsorship marketing draw. It's and that's not to knock any of the brands. Da Vinci's been extremely supportive of it, and they gave me most of the startup cost for it. It's just grown. So March 27th, we're going to premiere it. We're going to travel around. Anybody that's interested in can reach out to me, or anybody that wants to help sponsor the film. And then I'm going to have it out on YouTube shortly after that, probably a month or something.
Okay.
So a bit of a tour. We're going to Quebec. I'm hoping to bring it down to Sea Otter. And I just want to share something that I feel is like not trying to be anything. It's not trying to sell you anything. It's just, I hope that through the amount of people that we have in the film, it's going to resonate with enough people to be like, I go through that. I understand that. Oh, that's cool. And then maybe they have something to give to me, and maybe I have something to give to them. But it'd be like, yeah, community and homies and families, everything.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I'm sure you'll post on your social media so people can see.
Tickets will be, I'm going to do tickets available quite soon, I think.
Okay.
And if I sell the theater out fast, then I'm going to book a second one in the Sea to Sky. That's kind of my plan, because I don't know. It's a 700-person theater. Does it take me 3 months to fill it, or does it take me 3 minutes to fill it?
Okay.
We'll find out.
Sounds good.
We'll see.
Okay, to wrap up this podcast, what's your point of view on the current state of freeriding?
I think it's really hard to do anything that hasn't been done. So what gets me stoked is seeing people really go out and do free riding that's not bound by like what somebody else is doing. So I like to see, I think the argument of like what's free ride or that's not free ride enough. And like that argument in itself is just against what free riding is. I like to, when I see someone go out and do something different, that's what, I don't know if that answers your question, but like I just want to see, I love seeing people do an expression of what biking is to them. That's free riding to me.
At the same time, I really like to see someone redoing something that's been done in different location, because you can see the inspiration and you know where the inspiration came from.
Yeah.
For example, Giaterton last video.
Yeah.
On the forest where with all the fallen trees was heavily inspired by, you know, your video with Brage.
You see Elliot's video?
Elliot's Lapot.
Elliot's video was like, I forgot how, like, he posted the other day. I'm like, holy crap.
But it's exactly where it's coming from. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool to see it's like, you know, someone had a great idea and someone just reproduced elsewhere. That's how it works with everything, you know. Any companies that make something good, if no one's trying to copy you, it's probably because your product is not very good.
True. And then what about that Czech video that just came out with that freeride, like Ridden and I?
Yeah.
Like that to me was like, freeride is just like the pals getting out there and just riding bikes. And that's so sick. It's such a hard, damn, we might have just re-upped the podcast for another 2 hours because there's like so much to say about that. But like what you do is like so rad. Like, I mean, you go open up new lines and creative ways of doing it, more brake control, opening it up for others, sharing your techniques. Like that's free ride to me. Your Whistler videos were like one of the first things. Probably have never watched a video more than you burning the Whistler bike park. Like that stuff.
During a fire ban.
Yeah, exactly. And then like look at what it's inspired, like a whole wave of people in the bike park finding new lines. And I remember actually that video got me inspired to buy a bike pass. And then that opened up gap hunting for me. Like I was like, wow, you can do this, which inspired my first Fifth Horseman video where like I hadn't seen a lot of people trying new creative lines. So I just like pulled off these things and people were like, wow, man, that's a crazy gap. And then you and I connected and it refined my skills. I went back, shot another Fifth Horseman video. I don't know.
But me, I was inspired. I didn't invent anything. I was inspired by, why am I blinking?
Oh no.
Elliot Jackson.
Yeah.
He had done a video with Vital mountain bike a year prior. And where they were hunting for gaps in the Whistler Bike Park.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired me. And then with Kenny Smith's video in the Whistler Bike Park.
Yeah.
Where there was like, the year I came to Whistler, he did a video for SRAM. I think it was for the cut brakes. Anyway. And he's eating a couple of new lines. And, I remember everybody talking about those lines. Oh, did you see like Kenny's line? And people were referring to, you know, Kenny's line, Elliot's line, Ian's line.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, you know, that's cool. Like you can kind of own a little piece of
it's super cool.
Whistler Bike Park by creating your own line.
Yeah, man. And yours will live on forever. People can duplicate them, but like that's a Remy line and it's really cool. Like Kenny is one of my biggest inspirations. Like that line. You know how many people ask me if the lines that I'm hitting in my backcountry are the line off the bike park? Oh yeah, it's cool that you resurrected that. I'm like,
oh no,
it doesn't look the same.
I mean, the idea is similar.
Kind of.
You ride on a big rock slab, you finish by a drop.
I guess that's true.
And then you have to survive the stumps.
That was raw as hell.
Way, so
yeah, man. I think Freeride's in a great place. Biking, regardless of where the industry goes and standards and money or whatever, biking's the best and it brings people together and gives us opportunity to have these chats and grow as people. And I don't know.
Awesome.
I'm just going to keep riding my bike, dude. I don't care.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment. And we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers. Unreal. Oh, leg. Oh, so long.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.